This video is looking at A-level exam paper 2, starting with part A, which will be for you guys on Blake's poetry. So paper 2 is worth 32% overall. All texts are worth 16% in these exams. Your paper will be marked out of 32. It's an hour for the questions, and you're assessed for all 4 assessment criteria: AO1, AO2, AO3 and AO4. Okay, so this is what a question from a typical Blake exam question would look like. So important information you should be aware of. First of all, you've got 1 hour for this section. It's not a lot of time to compare 2 poems. Every question will give you a specific theme to address. You'll get a named poem to focus on. You need to refer to 1 or 2 other poems. You won't get penalised for only referring to 1 other poem, as long as your connections and links are really good quality. But obviously being able to make links to more than 1 poem shows that you understand Blake's style more. Speaking of style, you need to make sure that you are making those links and you're aware of the connections in specific to Blake. So if you're reading a Blake poem, what types of things do you expect to see in a Blake poem? That's his style. That's what we're after. And finally, you still need to make links to relevant context and literary movements, so you should still be referencing the Romantics for the big ideas that Blake presents. You can also look at how he went against that. You could look at his focus on religion and religious aspects of life at the time and how that links to his personal beliefs. So those sorts of things. Okay, so you get a named poem and a copy of the named poem in the exam, so you can annotate your named poem if you wish. This is how you should go about it. So you should spend at least 10 minutes planning. The better you'll plan, the better you'll answer. Otherwise, you write everything you know in the first paragraph and the rest of your essay will be absolutely rubbish. So we're planning. We're planning because we want the 3 best quotes from this poem that show freedom and control. And then as we're annotating those, what will start to happen is we'll start to remember the other poems that have a similar theme or a similar topic and similar images. Therefore, that would sink into Blake's style. Because if he uses a similar image or a similar imagery throughout poems to show a significant idea, then you're looking at a connection already. So the first thing we do is annotate 3 examples of freedom and control in this poem. So let's find some. So I found these 3. Okay, so I used to play on the green. The symbol of destruction of the green, which represents freedom in childhood by the chapel, represents the laws and prohibitions of adulthood. So that links to a range of other poems. So freedom in childhood, the laws laid down by the church that control people, and the symbolic nature of the green. I also went for thou shalt not. The imperative tone of the direct address in the sign over the door shows the rules of adulthood and reflects the tone of the 10 Commandments in the Bible, so you've got a bit of allusion there, and the religious reference. And then finally, tombstones where flowers should be. So the juxtaposition of the tombstones and the flowers shows how the church is ruining nature or natural things that would normally happen. So in this case, actually, the church is ruining natural love, natural marriage, falling in love and getting married for marriage, getting married because you're in love, and having children because you're in love, and not just because you're expected to, because those are the rules. All right, once you've got your 3 best quotes and you've got a phrase, you notice each one comes with a phrase level analysis. So I've got symbolism, imperative tone, juxtaposition. Then a bit of analysis for each one. Doesn't have to be very detailed. Then we want to see what we can link to other poems. So I've got the first one compares the never-ending freedom of children and the old people in the echoing green, because it mentions the green, so you can make those links to any poem that mentions the green. So you could also look at Nurse's Song, Innocence and Experience as well. It also mentions children. In the infinite verbs, play, laughing and seen, shows that in that poem, the freedom of the children is ongoing. It's not blocked, it's not stopped. And even the old people feel happy and nostalgic about the freedom of the children, whereas in this one, it's ended. So you've got a real contrast there that you can explore as a difference. Another connection I found was for thou shalt not. If you compare that to the joyful imperatives used by the child in the clouded introduction, the first poem in Songs of Innocence, who demands Blake pipe and sing, shows dedication to God. You've got two uses of imperative tone, but for completely different reasons in Blake's poems. So one is in demanding that he celebrate God, and the other one is demanding that he follows the rule of God, even though it will lead to tombstones and graves. So you've got a real contrast of ideas there, and different uses of imperative tone, and the tone itself is different in the imperative because the one is from innocence, one is from experience. The final thing you'll need to do is show what comparison you're making. So if we're going to compare the Echoing Green and the Garden of Love for that first quote, I would say something like, the finite verbs used in the Garden of Love show the end of freedom and control in adulthood compared to the infinite verbs and nostalgic memories of the old folks in the Echoing Green, which show childhood and freedom as ongoing. So we're looking here at how the verbs are used, so what types of verbs are used and how they're used as a comparative. Okay, we're aiming for 3 comparative paragraphs, which is why I've asked you to identify the 3 best quotes from the poem that you've got to write on, because obviously then the other stuff is relying on your memory. Now you can remember whole quotes, so phrase love analysis, or even just keywords. You'll notice I've just taken play, laughing and scene from the Echoing Green because that's a nice easy thing to remember. Okay, once you've got your 3 comparisons, you've done your annotations and you made your links to other poems, you will find that as you're writing you'll come up with more ideas, and that's absolutely fine. That's what a good plan should do. It should generate extra ideas. So once you've done that, then you need to try and write, if you can in 50 minutes, your 3 comparative paragraphs. And the good thing about writing a good plan means that you've got the content of your essay already planned out. So writing it should be fairly quick. So once you've done your first comparative paragraph, your second comparative paragraph, if you don't get to your third one, it's not terrible, but it'd be good to aim for it, just to show that the more comparisons you can make and the more quality comparisons you can make, the higher the mark you'll get. Okay, that's my top tips for paper 2 section A. Good luck. Finally, if you want to, here's another question for paper 2 section A, another William Blake question focusing on Holy Thursday from Songs of Innocence. What you could do is have a go at looking at what the topic of the poem is, finding 3 quotes that work the best, and then trying to make links to those quotes to the poems you already know. Do a plan, write your first paragraph, see how long it takes. The more time you spend practicing your planning, the better you get at it, the quicker your essay writing will be.